Chemical reactions. Outcomes. By the end of this lesson, you must be able to 1. State what chemical reaction is. 2. Represent a chemical reaction using word equation. 3. Represent chemical reaction using models. 4. Represent a chemical reaction using symbols. 5. Explain the significance of a subscript in a formula. 6. Explain the significance of a number in front of a compound. 7. State that no atoms are gained or lost during a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction is a process where atoms of substances break up, rearrange, and join to form new substances which have different physical and chemical properties than the substances that reacted together. Here we've got oxygen reacting with hydrogen to form water. We know that hydrogen and oxygen are gases at room temperature. Water at room temperature is a liquid. So they have different physical quantity. That is, for example, the boiling point, and they have different chemical properties. They react differently. Substances that react together are called reactants, and substances that are formed are called the product. Here we've got carbon reacting with oxygen. So these substances react together, carbon and oxygen. We call them the reactants. And they form the product, which in this case is carbon dioxide. And in between them, there's a yield sign. Chemical reaction can be represented by models, the diagrams, or chemical equation, where you use the symbols, or we can even represent it by words, where you use the words carbon plus oxygen to yield carbon dioxide. The subscript following a symbol indicate the number of atoms of the element, and the number in front of the molecule indicate the ratio in which the molecule reacts or is formed. Here are subscripts, the subscripts, the subscript, the subscript. This indicates the number of atoms of an element. For example, here we've got 2 atoms of hydrogen, 2 atoms of oxygen, 2 atoms of hydrogen, 2 atoms of oxygen, 2 atoms of oxygen. And the number in front of the molecule indicates the ratio in which the molecule reacts or is formed. So we've got 2 molecules of hydrogen react with 1 molecule of oxygen to yield 2 molecules of water. So we've got 2 molecules of hydrogen. So 2 times 2 is 4. So we'll be having 4 hydrogen atoms. The same can be said here, forming 2 molecules of water. So in 2 molecules of water, we'll be having 4 atoms of hydrogen, 2 times 2, and 2 atoms of oxygen, 2 times 1. Remember, when there's nothing, it means we've got 1. During a chemical reaction, atoms are rearranged as bonds of the reactants are broken, new bonds are formed to make products, and no atom are gained or lost during a chemical reaction. Let's take, for example, the reaction that we have dealt with, the reaction between oxygen and hydrogen. We have said bonds between atoms are broken in the reactants. We can see that there's a chemical bond between 2 oxygen here, chemical bonds between two hydrogens here, the same as here. So those bonds are broken to form new bonds which are between oxygen and hydrogen. And the number of atoms of the same element are equal on both sides of the yield sign. If we count the number of hydrogen atoms on the left-hand side of the yield sign, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 atoms. On the right-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogen atoms. Atoms of oxygen, 1, 2 on the left-hand side of the yield sign, and on the right side of the yield sign, we've got 1, 2 atoms. So the number of atoms on both sides of the yield sign, the number of atoms of the same element on both sides of the yield sign are equal. Are the number of molecules equal? Let's look on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we've got 1, 2, 3 molecules. But on the right-hand side, we've got 1, 2 molecules.